We had set up.
Greetings, welcome to the June 2026 meeting of the Cook County Housing Redevelopment Authority. First of all, I note the presence of a quorum, Commissioners Olson, O'Brien, Lamour, and Gabler, and our county representatives, Commissioners Sullivan and Gamble. Welcome to all. We'll move ahead to look at first approving the agenda. Is there a motion regarding approving the agenda?
Yeah, and with that too, just to point out, the agenda will, there's an amendment to that one with on number B, or letter B, the resolution 26-18. The folks that requested that, towards 30% folks from the Heights are requesting an additional month's time to redraft some of the language that they had previously drafted.
Well, with that
amendment,
correction,
I'll move for approval of the agenda.
it's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If none, call a question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Approval of the May 20th, 2026 meeting minutes is up next. I did read them through, and I have no corrections, so I'll move approval of the minutes.
I second. These are great, by the way.
Yeah.
It's an improvement, isn't it?
Once again, it's a big step up in our minute taking, and we appreciate it. All those in favor of the minutes approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Opportunity for public comment. We have a couple of people in the public in the audience there. Do you want to introduce them?
Yeah, I'll introduce them. I don't know if they want to make any public comments today, otherwise I'm concerned what public comments they'd make. But my daughter and my son, my daughter Isabel and my son Leo are both here today. I brought them with to see what Dad does for a living.
Glad to have you. New business, a presentation regarding our 2025 HRA audit by Andy Herring of Redpath and Company. Andy, you want to take it away, please?
All right, sounds good. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear here. I will go ahead and share my screen.
Perfect. We can hear you and we can see it.
All right, great. So this is the cover page of your audit for the year ended December 31st, 2025, which we, Redpath and Company, completed. Let's see, I don't even remember the report date, but a month or so ago, I think, maybe even longer at this point. But here just to summarize the results of the audit, overall good news. So I will walk you through and highlight a few things from the audit. The first report that we issue is our independent auditor's report. The first paragraph really says what we audit, the financial statements of Cook County HRA. The second paragraph is our opinion, and that is our opinion, the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects. That's audit lingo, meaning we audit on a concept of materiality, looking for any material misstatements or misstatements that would affect the reader of the financial statements. So we are not auditing every single transaction. We don't audit to make sure everything is correct to the nearest penny, but on a concept of materiality. So the results, the financial statements and footnotes are materially correct. That's an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion, and the highest level of opinion you can receive. But behind our independent auditor's report, the basic financial statements, there's both a full accrual and a modified accrual versions of the financial statements, which governmental entities report. The full accrual, our statements 1 and 2 here, they report or include any long-term assets. There's really not a lot of or much of a difference between the full accrual and modified accrual. the modified accrual you're more used to seeing on a monthly basis when you review the statements. But here's the balance sheet as of December 31st, 2025. Not a whole lot to call out there, except when I'll scroll down here towards the bottom, the fund balance. So a total fund balance of $889,000 at the end of 2025. But then there are definite restrictions on how some of that money can be spent. A good chunk of it, as of the end of 2025, was unspent dollars from the American Rescue Plan Act. There's affordable housing aid dollars there that are restricted for certain purposes. And then the 1% CRV item that's received. So it's an important concept to understand that it's not just all available funds. There's some specific restrictions on those dollars. Over on the income statement, overall, the fund balance did increase $538,000 during the year. I know, like what I was just saying, a lot of that is committed for future projects, and you have certain ideas for that, and not just ideas, but events are happening here in 2026 for those funds. Next, there's the footnotes. Nothing too substantial in the footnotes. There is, if you really want to get into the numbers, there is a nice statement here. It's on page 23 of the printed copy, 27 of this PDF copy. But this displays the actual 2025 results compared to your budget, as well as a 2024 column there. So this is the best snapshot of the 2025 activity if you're looking for it. Probably the biggest thing here that stands out to me is just that variance with budget column, and the actual revenue was way over budgeted revenue, but so were the expenditures. But that's just because those projects are difficult to budget, especially not knowing always when they will occur. And as a result, on the revenue side, at least, they're not budgeted. Following that is our, you don't need to worry about reading this whole report here, but this is our report on internal control, or that's the financial policies and procedures of the HRA. Common internal controls are approval of disbursements, approval of financial statements, approval of the receipting and coding, things like that. So we're looking at those internal controls as we perform the audit, and have two findings to report related to internal controls, which I'll get to in just a second here. Oh, there they are right there. Okay. The first is really one that you're going to have, it's going to be a repeat finding every year, likely. That's lack of ideal segregation of duties with just one full-time employee. It's just really hard for organizations of your side to properly have somebody processing the data and reviewing the data. So there's a finding just calling out that condition exists. Really, the commissioner's oversight of the financial statements and those monthly reports is probably the best control to help prevent anything from going wrong relating to a lack of ideal segregation of duties. The second item there, it's titled Inconsistent Coding of Revenues and Expenditures. So that's something we picked up and corrected during the audit. But we noted a few things where it just didn't make sense, where certain revenues and expenses were coded. I'm looking over at a different screen here. There was some salaries expense coded to a loan disbursement account. Property tax payments were coded to a donations account. So some things where it just didn't make sense, and not a huge deal. You know, we got them corrected as part of the audit, but I would think for your ongoing review throughout the year, it's going to help you as commissioners be able to evaluate the financial statements better when those amounts are coded to the correct accounts. And I should have mentioned up front, as part of wrapping up the audit, myself and Megan Hansen, who is the manager on the audit, we met with Jeff to go over all of these items. So he's had an opportunity to hear these and put into place corrections. So hopefully this doesn't happen again. The next report is a report on Minnesota legal compliance. So as part of the audit, we complete a guide that the state auditor issues for testing for compliance with state statutes in a variety of areas, including disbursements and cash and investments. If there were any bidding or contracts or certain statutes that need to be followed, how those contracts are let, things of that nature. The result, we did not note any compliance findings. So good news there. So those documents are all bound together in the 2025 financial statements. We issue one other letter. It's titled Communication with Those Charged with Governance, essentially a letter from the auditor to the commissioners of required topics that we are required to communicate. All barely routine items in here until we get to page 3. I've got two things that I noted, and I already spoke on this, but just a reminder of those various fund balance classifications, and especially the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. At the end of 2025 anyways, there was $501,000 of ARPA dollars that were unspent, and those have to be spent by the end of 2026, or you're obligated to return those to the Treasury. So I think there are plans in place to spend that money, but just want to make sure that those dollars are spent by the end of 2026. And then the second item, there was, when we test the expenditures, we select a sample. One of them that we selected was a $203 charge to Hungry Hippie Tacos, and the receipt was not provided. Not a huge deal, but just wanted to kind of take the opportunity to remind the commissioners that, and this is straight out of a state auditor, they call them avoiding pitfalls. And to summarize this, anytime there's sort of meal reimbursements, those are acceptable for certain circumstances, such as when it was necessary to have a meal during a meeting time, for example. But the policy of the state auditor is you should have a policy, an internal policy, really stating when it's appropriate for there to be meal reimbursements. So that's a reminder to establish a policy, and that just helps. What's good practice, and it would help you defend yourself if anyone, say from the general public, oh, why are you spending money on this or that? Well, we had this meeting during dinner time, and that was the only time we could meet. So according to our policy, it was appropriate to have a meal reimbursement during that time. So those are the two kind of management points that I had, not necessarily findings, but just items to call out during the audit. And that is it from what I had today, but overall good news. There's quite a bit of work that goes into preparing for the audit and then conducting the audit itself. And I'm trying to remember, we were, I think, about 6 months ahead of last year. So overall, things went a lot smoother this year, 2025, than last year. So I definitely thank Jeff for his hard work on that and everyone else that supported him. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Well, first, let me express our appreciation for the completion of the audit in a very timely fashion. And we do remember the issues with the previous year's audit and changing directors and a bunch of other issues, but glad to hear we're back on track. Question for Jeff is, does Carl Hansen now, is he aware of the coding issues, and keeps our books in a sense, or at least starts them? And
Yeah, so the coding issue comes down to when QuickBooks takes our transactions, it kind of, AI, I think, in the background kind of categorizes them, and it does the best it can, but sometimes it misses. And clearly we've all missed some of the errors. I mean, I fix as many of them as I catch, which is the majority of them, but clearly there were some of them that were not missed, or that were not caught. So, yep, we're all aware of that going forward, to double and triple check to make sure going forward, yes.
that's great. Also, I guess I would assure the other commissioners that we're working hard on making sure that the ARPA money is spent by the end of the year. We have no intention of rebating any of it to the federal government if we can help it, and I know we can help it. Also, in meal reimbursement, that is an issue that is on our agenda shortly here, to approve a motion, or hopefully approve a motion that will take care of that, but we appreciate the heads up. And to Andy, if you see or hear any other issues or think of policies we might consider, please push them on, whether it's during an audit or not. If things come up to your attention that the state is now requiring, or someone else, we'd appreciate hearing that. So thanks. Any other thoughts from commissioners or anyone else? Okay, thanks very much.
All right, you're welcome. I'll definitely pass along any tips or considerations for policies as I hear them or think of them. So thank you, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Andy.
Yep. Bye.
Well, as we noted, B, Resolution 2618 is going to be pushed out till next month, pending some further work on the issue with Boreal Waters Foundation. But that brings us to 2619, resolution adopting housing and redevelopment meal-related policies, and we just heard the importance of that. And Jeff, do you want to explain the policy for us?
Yeah,
Please.
so once the auditors came back with that recommendation, I had a conversation with the Minnesota Office of the State Auditor, and they recommended that we work through our legal folks at Freiberger to create the meal plan that you have before us today in Exhibit A. What I would also suggest is that once Christopher Verta over at Freiberger created that, he also had that vetted through the Office of the State Auditor as well. So what you see before us has been vetted and re-vetted, and this is a good meal policy that I think we should adopt. from the standpoint of the audit, there was a point of clarification about the lack of a receipt for a meal. So we had strategic planning last June and July, and the July meal for strategic planning before this meeting occurred last July happened to be me going to the Hungry Hippie Taco a half hour before they opened. They were kind enough to get the meal ready for us beforehand, and I had to get over here to have the everything planned and ready to go, and unfortunately, I just didn't grab the receipts, and so I feel bad, but that's an honest mistake. In the whole scheme of the day, I think we planned a great strategic planning out of it all, but unfortunately, just didn't grab the receipts, so.
And the meal was good. so-
And the meal was good, as always, right there, right? But going forward, I'll double and triple check that I've got the receipt before we leave the facilities.
Great. Is there a motion to approve the meal-related policy?
I'll move to approve 26-19.
I second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of the policy say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is resolution approving the Housing Redevelopment Authority of Cook County's levy request to Cook County itself. You have exhibits, a budget document, and the Cook County Community Investment Funding and Discretionary Funding Application. Jeff, do you want to walk us through those, please?
Certainly. So you'll remember last month we had this discussion in which we adopted the proposed 2027 HRA levy request. We were a little ahead of the game, and Brady Powers over at the auditor's office came back to us and said, okay, that's great, you guys have this, but also we have this new application that the county commissioners also want you to fill out for community investment funding and discretionary funding. And so that is also included in this discussion today as an exhibit B, I believe. And so I went through the process of not only looking at the budget, but also drafting all of the answers to all the questions they required from us. We don't, one of the requirements for a 990 tax form, we don't have that because we're a government entity, but we do have an audit, which I will pass along, that we just adopted today as well. But you'll see the answers to all the questions here. Feel free to look them over if you haven't already, and if you have any questions about verbiage or what you'd like to see that isn't incorporated, I'm happy to take that feedback either now or before I submit it. But just as kind of maybe sort of reiterate some points that were made from the last discussion and then again to this discussion. If you look at the budget itself, Exhibit A, we have a 4% increase for the executive director's position. And then in support services, we have an increase for support services as well. And that reflects the contracted administrative and technical assistance that, of course, we use to kind of, we're in a situation of growing pains. And so for us, we contract out some of the work, like, for instance, Maggie is kindly doing all of our minutes and, of course, making them look much better than ever before. That's an example of a professional contract that we have now that we didn't in previous years. Over on the benefits side, we had an increase of 3%, and that reflects the rising costs of benefits for the executive director position. And then if you look at the operating costs, well, there are things like a 3% increase for things like liability insurance, bookkeeping, the auditing services, technical services are also increased by 3% just because we know that things are going to cost more than they ever have before. And we need all of those things to operate. It's just really important, whether it be the subscription that we have to maintain our security online or different things like that for technical work and that sort of thing. Rebooting things that have gone wrong or something like that, recovering data is an example. So the requests that we have are modest, and I think the primarily reflects the inflation that we see across the board everywhere in the world. And rising service costs. In the past years, we have looked at ways that we could make sure that we're mean and lean, and I think that we're continuing to do that with this budget, but also recognizing the fact that things are just costing a little bit more to continue to do the business.
Any questions for Jeff on that? My own reaction is I'm hoping we weren't too lean and mean on our expectation of the rising costs. And we'll find out, but otherwise, I think it's really, it was a good job preparing the report and in response to the county's request, and we appreciate the county's due diligence in having a budget review committee to begin with, and we're happy to submit our material to you. Commissioner Gamble, I saw.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, just regarding that. Jeff, do you know, did Brady indicate that you would be presenting that before the Board of Commissioners?
I anticipate doing so. I don't know that he articulated that to me, but I anticipate doing so going forward. He did indicate that, just like the EDA, for instance, the HRA is considered a core function.
Yeah.
And so maybe it's a little bit different than some of the nonprofits that the county commissioners fund. But yeah, I would imagine I would be presenting
Yeah.
as well.
Because we will have department heads, and that's why I'm just curious if he mentioned that in conjunction. And at that point, and we, Commissioner Sullivan and other commissioners and our county administrator this morning attended an Association of Minnesota Counties District 1 meeting, and part of that discussion was when counties within District 1 gave their update about how they go over their budget process, and that departments and entities come before the board. And in my first term, that's how it happened. It just gives us an opportunity to understand the narrative that informs your budget. So I'm just curious whether you were going to show up or not. Otherwise, we would grill you individually.
Tell me the time and the date, I'd be happy to be there. And
And I
equal
said that in
opportunity to
front of your
everybody, right?
kids because I want accountability.
Absolutely.
Any other comments, questions? Is there a motion to approve the Housing and Redevelopment Authority's 2027 levy request to Cook County in the documentation?
I second. I'm sorry. I make a motion to approve the request.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Other business, the director's report. Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, a
Walk
couple
us in
of couple of items to discuss today in my director's report. The first thing being, you'll remember a year ago in June, we had our first strategic planning session, followed by July's. And then, of course, we had our 5 new priorities in addition to the 3 priorities that we currently have, which is to build new housing, to rehab existing housing, and to redevelop where important and necessary. And one of those new 5 items was local housing trust fund. And I think we've given a lot of time and effort to putting together a set of guidelines that I think they were vetted through the Minnesota Housing Partnership. I feel strongly that those are going to be the 5 guidelines that we use for funding out of the HRA going forward for things like some of the envelope and energy program improvements in the community and that sort of thing going forward. The problem is we can't actually implement any of that stuff without actually having the local housing trust fund established. And, we've had, our county attorneys had possession of the documents necessary to create through resolution the local housing trust fund. And we understand, full understanding that, housing maybe isn't that top priority for their office, considering all of the other major and important things that they're doing with court cases and that sort of thing. And so, I think I'd like to go a new route. I'm having our folks at Freiberger put together the actual resolution for the, and actually doing it now, for the creation of local housing trust fund. And then we'll give, once it's received, I would hope by mid-July, then we will give our county attorney 30 days to look it over. And my hope is that by August 15th, or at the next August meeting, I can't remember exactly the date, but, 3rd week in August, when we have our HRA board meeting, we'll be passing our resolution to create and establish the local housing trust fund. And then we'll be spending the next 4 months getting it off the ground and moving and doing the things that we anticipated doing with that local housing trust fund. So that's
Great.
just kind of wanted to bring that to your attention to say, I think I've got a new tack going forward on this. There's no hard feelings or anything like that. We understand that the attorney's office is very busy with what's going on in the world and all around us. We need to keep the ball moving forward on this local housing trust fund.
Well, I'd support that, in that I think Freiberger's certainly qualified to do this work, and the county attorney is likely not very familiar with how local housing trust funds, and we'd certainly like to get the county attorney's opinion, but I think moving forward here at this stage, we waited long enough, just being frank about it. We need to get something going, so I appreciate the thought. Commissioner
Thank you,
Campbell.
Mr. Chair, appreciate it. Just to that point, Jeff, that I flew in the door because I had received a call from John Bennett. He's a gentleman with the University of Minnesota, tapping into wealth and establishing foundation funding, and just what a huge resource that is. And so we had asked in the leadership meeting, community leadership meeting, that he would come and do a presentation to interested parties. And I know Lucas certainly would like to be part of that.
Okay.
And so John had said that if there's individuals, he'd be coming up in a week or two.
Okay.
And whoever would like to meet, the intention, the reason that I brought him to mind is that I think it's a resource to help direct us in an area to create funding that isn't necessarily, well, it definitely isn't levy-based, and certainly we've had many discussions on funding mechanisms that are resourceful like that. So I can certainly let you know when he's in town so we can have a initial discussion, and then hopefully there would be a presentation to the full leadership group.
Super. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, any resources that are available like that, I'm happy to attend and be a participant in. And just to remind you too, the reason why we're doing this in the first place, the way we're doing it, is because in 2025, what year is this? Yep, 2026. Time flies. In 2025, the legislature passed last May a resolution or statute change allowing for HRAs and cities and communities to create local housing trust funds. And so this gives us authority through the legislature in order for us to do it ourselves, which honestly, the way I'm looking at this, we will still be, I think, the first one out of the chute as in HRA doing it ourselves. I want to make sure our I's are dotted, our T's are crossed, and we're doing everything right, because I think at the end of the day, it's really important, because other people will follow, and I think it's incumbent on us to be good stewards and good leaders in this process. And so it's taken a little bit of time, maybe a little bit of extra time, but I think it's worth it in the long term for what the product will be. The next thing on the list, I just wanted to mention a little bit about the 1800 West Highway 61 project. We've had several conversations with the previous candidate developer for the project. We have since worked with the EDA and recommended that we cut ties with the developer and work on looking at a new developer. And so that work continues. As we look forward here, our goals are that we, number one, have that workforce housing program grant, that $1.3 million that the EDA received for housing. There is a timeline that's ticking on that, and January 1st, 2028 is the last day that anything could be constructed on that site for reimbursement of that $1.3 million. And I think it's really important, considering what we need for housing in the state of Minnesota, but specifically in our Arrowhead region, that we take full advantage of that money and we get that money to pay for that project. And so we have kind of a deadline, and there were some real concerns about us not being able to meet that deadline. And all indications were at the legislature last year, or last session here, which ended last month, that on both sides of the aisle, both parties are very interested in seeing the money that Minnesota Housing gets go out the door as soon as they get it, so that way they're not holding on to money, because the need for housing in this state is great. It is about a $65 or $70 billion with a B problem across our state, which is about what exactly is the state budget for 2 years at the state level. So there won't be another chance for us to get this kind of money. We had a lot of extra money that was available to us because of the feds subsidizing health during the pandemic. A lot of that money was available in the 23-24 sessions, and we're seeing that money come to Cook County in the form of this grant, for instance, and we're able to see it happen. We just want to make sure we get that money to its full potential.
How?
What's that?
How? How do we do that?
Well, right now, we're looking at working with a new developer.
And you are talking to people?
Yep. I'm talking with another developer right now. We'll make sure that the city is involved because they own the land, and we're not going to be able to get that building produced without their approval of the design. That's their real interest, is they want to make sure that whatever is put on that site is a unique design, but, you know, that's the Gateway District of Grand Marais, so they have some interest in that. Last month, we passed a resolution working with North Shore Surveying to get the property surveyed. That work is being conducted actually right about now, this mid-June. And so we're continuing to move the ball forward. We'll have something, if the developer decides that they do want to go forward with the project, I would imagine we'll be seeing some sort of a timeline. We'll be looking at some preliminary design work. We'll need to know where their construction folks are going to be, and just like with any other developer, we'll want to know what their capital stack is, who their investors are. We'll have to vet them through the process like we created last October or September of last year. And so there's a lot of work yet to be done. It's all work that has to be done in earnest in order to get that project off the ground. So hope that answers your how question. Yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to add one extra one. Sorry. Yesterday I attended the EDA meeting, and they had a great conversation about Taconite Harbor, which I did not include, but I attended the meeting. That was a great conversation, and both of the visions for the future, if everything works out and the owners of the properties are able to support selling that land and seeing something happen there on the site, both of the visions A and B had housing on site for the future of the Taconite Harbor community. And I think that that's really encouraging, and we want to make sure that we are standing ready as partners to see how we can help make that part of that vision a reality. Time will tell about how that will work. It's interesting, yesterday I sat next to Carla from Deed. She's in charge of the program dealing with communities, dealing with the energy transition away from coal and, that sort of thing in these different communities. And the 23-24 year, when I was a legislator, I unknowingly supported this program, not knowing that it would actually come to. And then the $1 million that Cook County received for this transition work was done at the legislature through that 23-24 session. So it was really kind of cool to talk to Carla a little bit about that, to kind of go, oh my gosh, that happened, and now I can actually see these dollars happen for our community in the vision process. And so we weren't part of that process, but we are obviously going to be part of it. I hope the benefit or the product that is the visions for the future in that area. And then the last thing I just wanted to point out was I received recognition from the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. It's in your packet, that they are recognizing the Cook County HRA and myself as a friend of the CGMC, the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities. They asked me to participate in some testimony. Senator Hochschild had a bill in the House for some housing funding, and particularly tied to infrastructure, which our community needs for housing. Can't build housing without somewhere to flush the toilets and somewhere to get the water, right? That's really important. And so I testified twice in the Senate to make sure that they understood what those dollars could mean for our community in dealing with the housing issues that we have. So they recognized me with an award, which will be given out next month in New Ulm, which is just a stone's throw from where I live currently. So that'll be a short drive to that meeting, and I'll be attending that one as well next month. And then that is all I had for the director's report for this month.
Financials, Commissioner O'Brien?
Yeah, no material issues to raise. The financials are included in the packet, or the transactions, the statement of activity for the month is included. We need to find a way to print that in a more digestible form, maybe a landscape instead of, 2 separate pages, but no material issues to raise.
Other topics. I see a person, a new arrival in the audience who might have something to tell us about the Heights.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Come up to the mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, come up to the mic.
Doing anything officially, but thank you for asking. Always nice to talk about the Heights. I'm Gary Latz, one of the project people from the Heights. It's been very successful, to say the least. We have 36 units, and either occupied, under a signed approved lease, or an approved application, we have 34 net. And so there are only 2 units left. One's a market rate, 1 bedroom, and the other is an 80% AMI studio. And that's it. Now, our pro forma, to put that into perspective, our underwriting said after 2 months, which for us would be the end of June, after 2 months, we should be at 55% occupancy. We're at 95%. So we're doing well. We're off to a good start. And it is amazing the life stories. You're talking about need for housing, but that need is a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of stories. And what these projects are allowing to happen, people come here and recognize their dream, have a place to land, take a job, and move up, and they're just delighted to be here in Cook County. And the housing is the thing that made it happen. The jobs were there. They just needed a place to be, and it's really, really exciting. We have a phase 2, interjecting that because of the comments that Jeff made a few minutes ago. We dearly wish to develop phase 2, which could be, if we did a similar building, similar style, could be as many as 24 units. And I just want to keep that in front of the HRA, that we have a strong interest in doing that. And now that our focus finally is away from building and sweeping and cleaning and things like that, we hope to open up some efforts into that project. Also, I should add, as far as construction goes, everything in the building is done. The only things that remain are external things that couldn't be finished last year by November, December, when it got too cold and it snowed. So we still have piles of rubble that are all going to be moved. We have a wonderful, wonderful landscape plan, which we'll be lucky if we can get anything planted this year, the way things are going. And we have a very extensive amenity area that's all planned out and ready to go, and we've acquired many of the pieces that go in there. So it's going to be just a wonderful place for people, families and individuals to take time and really, really enjoy what the community offers. So, Richard.
Can you tell us about, it's certainly without names or any identities, but what's your sense about local people moving in? Where are they coming from? Are they leaving their homes? Are they selling their homes to come live there?
Sure.
We'd like to know because...
Sure.
It's something Commissioner Gamble has expressed an interest in, both for the Gunflint View and for the Heights now, and as long as you're on the hot seat, you get the first shot.
Sure. Well, I will start by saying most of the units are being occupied by people that are coming to the county. Okay, which is our main objective to begin with. But having said that, there are 1, 2, 3, 4. There are four. I'll call them seniors. I guess I'm a senior too, so I'm one of them. But there are at least 4 units that are occupied by people who are already here and they're downsizing. And, and simplifying their life. And they're loving it. Our units are big, and they feel big, and it really makes a difference for those folks to say, I'm coming from my, 2,500, 3,000 square foot home, and I'm moving into an 840-foot apartment. Does it work? Well, yeah, it kind of does work. And so 4 people have made that kind of decision already. Beyond that, now, there are a couple other locals that have moved, and they've moved up. They've moved up from the basement to a real apartment, that's brand new, and they can really appreciate it that way, having more space and stuff. And for those folks, the AMI pricing is the thing that made it work, because the incomes just weren't there to do a market rate unit. So we certainly have to think in terms of that. The locals can really benefit from these programs. So I think we're hitting our primary target, which is the reloads. The secondary target was seniors moving down, and we didn't expect that to be a big number. And at this point, 4 out of 34 is not really a big number. And then, and the rest, not exactly to your question, Richard, but it's everything. It's couples, it's singles, it's families with kids. We have 10 kids. 10 kids. I'm looking forward to today to watch the school bus pull into the Heights, pick up all those kids and take them away. Really, think about that. And these kids are kids that are going to grow up and go through our school system, and they weren't here a year ago. It's just amazing. And some of the folks are talking about, the dreams. They're talking about, well, we're going to work here for a couple of years and save up money and buy a house, and things like that. Those are the dreams that the folks have, and they are being realized.
Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you. In 15 years of managing subsidized housing, 95% of the calls I would get are individuals that are offered basically job opportunities up here, but can't find housing. And you can tell in their voice how desperate they are, because they've got a job, they just got to find housing.
Yeah.
I did have a young gentleman come yesterday and gave him a tour, but our property is 55 and older. And so I sent him your direction. I don't know, but I said, you want to go up there and check it out. But given the fact that you had 2, he was ready to sign, but then he realized, because he's a young gentleman, he couldn't do it. But he has a job offer in Grand Portage, and he's got a girlfriend in Thunder Bay, so he just needed to get a place. I don't know if the job offer or the girlfriend was more attractive to the need, but anyway.
I know who you're talking about. Yes, yes.
Oh, good.
We're working on it.
Good.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
we
but
won't.
that's it, Gary. That's the kind of people and things, we're making things happen for them.
Sure.
But we won't specifically name names, but the director of the EDA admitted last month that he is a tenant at the Heights, and we're happy that he's there, and happy to have some housing for him. We have our own executive director who's still in the search process, but
He's very picky.
We have one unit for you, Jeff.
So while Gary is with us, one of the things I wanted to share is, as Commissioner Gamble mentioned, the county commissioners and our county administrator were at our District 1 meeting for AMC today. And one of the things last evening, when we gathered, we talked significantly about housing. And the word is out about your project, about the Cook County Real Estate Fund. And people were asking us if a group of us could put together a presentation to share at AMC in December to explain how a county can make a difference by providing housing. So I wanted to let you know that they have requested that we put a small group together to do a presentation. And a lot of discussion and logistics before then, but I just wanted to let you know, people are watching the Heights, they're watching the Gunflint View, they're watching Cook County, and they're amazed how we have worked on our housing issue. So I think we will be getting kind of a spotlight at this opportunity in December. It's down in Bloomington, so.
Call us for any help that you.
Absolutely. I know you have some
think we
great
could help.
slides.
Yeah. And sooner, we're going to get like real slides as soon as the place looks cleaned up and stuff too, you know. We're just holding off. I mean, it's not the most attractive looking at all those rubble piles and stuff, so that'll go away, and then we can take real pictures.
So don't relax too much.
No. No.
Well, we'll probably have you write up some of that material that you just gave us and ask Gunflint View to do the same, because I know there's a lot of interest in. And to start off with Gunflint View, so they're not totally forgotten, the county administrator is a tenant at Gunflint View while their home is being built, and so we've got county officials in both projects, and that's great, because that hasn't always been, that housing hasn't been available for some of our potential hires, and at least in 2 cases, it has been.
Very true. Well, any other questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Gary.
Thank you for inviting me to speak. Thank you.
And I think maybe it's worth pointing out too, I forgot to do this in the director's report, but the Heights just received an energy efficiency rebate from the SIMPA as well. I just wanted to
Great.
acknowledge that. That was out last month in the North Shore Journal on May 29th. And so it's nice that new construction also has new energy efficiencies. And I think that that's one of the goals that we share at the HRA going forward, is that we want to support more of that and see more of that happen as well. So, thank you. Congratulations.
Any committee reports?
I have a question. So the 1.6 million for the, 1.3 million for 1,800?
Yep.
Can that be used on any other projects for a different piece of land, for example?
No.
Is it tied to that
Yep.
land? Okay.
Yep, I've had some very good conversations with the Department of Housing and Minnesota Housing Finance Agency about that. If we change the location, or if we change the amount of units or something like that, that's primarily different from what we originally had in our application, the fair thing would be for us to get back in line, because there's a lot of other people that are waiting in line as well.
What about phase 2?
Yeah, that would be a great application for us to have in the future for some more money, definitely.
But we can't use that money.
I've asked. Unfortunately,
Alright, so
that,
it's a try.
yep.
It's good to have
And we've had some conversations about that as well, but unfortunately, just,
But Commissioner
Not in the cards.
Olson, for that, idea, we do have the ARPA
ARPA money.
sitting there, that it's not that much, but it's enough that might help stimulate some new development, and some of it's committed, or at least verbally, but there's still some available.
Remember that the Bjorkberg project had some money available as well that could be used on other projects. It was my understanding.
yep, we've earmarked 100,000 for the Norris Gogan project
Okay.
to get to the 450,000 that they need, and so
I see.
that we've got 100,000. Earlier this year, we provided $250,000 for the Nordic Star expansion with One Roof Community Housing, so that's $350,000 committed. So we have a little less than $150,000 to play with, that might be used for things like wherever we decide. And I do want to have a meeting for us to talk about strategic planning for us to.
Let's not refer to it as play with it.
Well, that's fair.
It's
Yeah,
real
but
money.
sorry. Yeah, we're not playing with
Money
it.
here.
Yeah, for us to use and to benefit the housing that we need in our community. So whether it be infrastructure, or whether it be construction costs, or preliminary pre-development costs or something like that, we do have different pots of money where we could earmark that money, but it has to be spent by this year, or given back to the federal government. Yeah.
Any other commissioner items, or? I would just point out that on, I think it's July 9th, the HRA and the EDA are sponsoring the community leaders meeting, and we're going to be at Gunflint View in their community room, and looking forward to that. And it should be a interesting time, but nice to be able to meet in such a place and a little further focus on housing, so that's all good.
It's good that you got your meal policy in place.
Maybe the EDA doesn't, and they'll provide the.
That's right, we'll let them do that. Yeah.
We'll see, but yeah, thanks. Any other issues to bring before the board? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Oh, yes.
Excuse me,
Oh,
Commissioner
I'm sorry, I
Sullivan.
have one thing. So I had an opportunity this afternoon to attend the North Span working group up at the Cook County Higher Ed. I know Jeff had hoped to be able to attend that as well, but had something else come up. And primarily what they did is, over the last year, North Span has had 4 different meetings, or 3 of the 4 as of today. The first one, it was almost a year ago, and collected background research on rural communities and some of the issues and needs that they had. Housing was number 1, surprise, surprise. And then they had engagement sessions throughout the 7 counties in the northern part of the state. Today, they are developing some action plans, and they'll do a final presentation, most likely at the end of the summer or early September. But they're really looking at housing and are collecting information not only from Cook County, but Koochiching was there today, Itasca County, Aiken County, St. Louis, and
Carlton?
Pine County, and Carlton, and Lake. So they were all present there to share information about their struggles with housing, also what are their successes. And so when we get that final report, I'll make sure that we present it to this group.
Be great.
The nice thing about all the groups that you mentioned is that they also participate with us in different organizational meetings, whether it be with RAMS, range area, or with the home continuum as well, for some federal money that the Arrowhead gets every year for housing. And so those folks are great partners in a lot of different ways. But yeah, we all kind of share the same issues. Another issue that we share in common is that there are a lot of secondary homes in our counties as well. And as we talk about these things, one of the things that we talk about are ways that we can work regionally to support maybe some additional policy changes, whether it be in the taxation realm or other ways, in order for us to get more of a fair balance of resources for housing in our communities. And so they're great folks to work with, and we share a lot, that's for sure, in common.
Again, is there a motion for adjournment?
Move to adjourn.
It's been moved,
Second.
seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting
On your
adjourned.
screen.
Thanks, everyone.
Is the Taconite group going to be presenting in Grand Marais sometime soon as well?
John Bennett with the University of Minnesota.
I know that they presented